Most Web3 projects claim their contribution towards designing a decentralized world. But let's cut through the crap and identify how permissionless these blockchains really are. For this exercise, let's take the top 10 blockchain networks based on CoinMarketCap and compare the minimum requirements needed to operate these chains. If you want to bridge from Web3 utopia to Web3 reality and reclaim your rights of ownership, financial autonomy, and privacy, join the Ghost ecosystem by visiting chain.ghostchain.io. You can find all the necessary links in the video description below. Here's a quick glimpse at the minimum requirements, including the disk space and RAM, both measured in gigabytes. While some chains stand out with sufficiently low requirements, such as Bitcoin, Monero, and Ethereum, the VC favorites of Solana and Ton chains require 256 gigabytes and 128 gigs of RAM respectively. Ghost is conveniently located right below Ethereum. Moreover, Ghost requirements presented here are the recommended ones. The minimum requirements are sufficiently low. Now let's take a step back and define the term permissionless. Getting to 8 billion people is tough, even with the most minimal requirements. Why? The answer is electricity. Despite the stated progress, almost 10% of people in the world do not have access to the electricity. This does not mean consistent source of electricity. 10% of people don't have access to the electricity, period. Lack of internet is another barrier to 100% permissionlessness. More than a third of the population do not have access to the internet, which is pretty crazy if you really think about it. So at best, permissionless blockchains can capture only 5 billion people. It's still very massive. But here is one other factor that we need to account for, and it is money, or rather the financial ability for residents of various countries to run nodes. The quick and dirty analysis was computed based on data derived from Numbeo. Not perfect, but okay to describe the trends. If we take the average monthly salary, subtract the average rent, and then subtract the average monthly expenses, we are going to get to the average net profit that people have left at the end of every month. People in many countries have a negative balance, which will prevent them from running nodes as well. Some of these negative net profit countries include developed nations, such as Malta, Cyprus, Portugal, Uruguay. Such financial disposition further limits the total addressable market down to 4 billion people, or just 50% of the population. So what is the problem? The problem is the insanely unaffordable minimum requirement imposed by the Web 2.5. Let's start with the Web 3 example to demonstrate just how bad Web 2.5 has it. Requirements for the Bitcoin network are quite minimal. 1 gigabyte of RAM, 350 gigabytes of disk space. If we decide to employ a virtual server, how much will it cost per month? If you go to cheaper services like Contabo, for example, you'll end up paying just $5.50 monthly. But how many people in the world can physically pay this amount? Turns out that based on Numbeo stats, around 99.8% of the 4 billion people can run a Bitcoin node. The situation is vastly different with the likes of Ton and Solana blockchain networks. Ton, for example, requires 128 gigabytes of RAM, powered by 16-core CPU and 1 terabyte of disk space. It's simply difficult to find VPS providers who can offer such massive RAM size of 128 gigs. But of course, Google Cloud comes to the rescue, which is complete nonsense by itself. Google Cloud will charge you $913 every single month to give you a wonderful opportunity of running a node for the Ton network. Such high monthly server fees drop the TAM, total addressable market, down to just 15.6% of the global population. Let's not forget that we assume that every person who has $1,000 of extra income every month will rush to run a node, which is of course completely untrue. Another important aspect is that one country of the United States of America, with ever-increasing anti-crypto regulations, represents half of this 15.6%. But Web 2.5 is just getting started. Up next, our favorite Solana. With the required RAM of 256 gigs, 12 cores of CPU and 1 terabyte of disk, Solana stands at $1,800 per month based on the Google Cloud numbers. To be honest, some services such as Scale 3 enable you to run a Solana node at a much higher price of $3,300 per month, so Google Cloud's quote is potentially underestimating the real budget required to operate a Solana node. In any case, the Solana node at $1,800 limits the total addressable market to just 0.3% of the global population, which begs a question. If Solana is not built for the retail users, who is it built for? The answer is obvious, it's built for the enterprises who can afford to run a node. But how is that a Web3 solution? How is it better than the Web2 large corporations who control your every move, who compromise your data, who sell your data, and frankly speaking don't have your best interest as a priority? The next question is, how does Ghost's requirements compare to the Web3 and Web 2.5 competition? Quite favorably. With low recommended requirements of just 6 gigs of RAM and the disk size of 256 gigs, the Ghost node can be run for just around $6 per month via a VPS. Of course, hardware nodes are always more preferred. In Ghost we trust.